Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to One Piece, episode 1006. So, yeah, last time we had quite the hell of an episode. On top of a new opening, we had a moment that shocked me in a way that, like, I couldn't even properly react to. Like, I feel like I didn't give you guys a good reaction there, because I feel like watching it again and everything, I felt like I probably should have screamed or something, or, like, jumped up or in shock, but it's like, I was just so, shocked by it that it's just, I couldn't get anything more of a reaction. And, of course, referring to Kiku losing her arm. Now, this isn't a death sentence for her. As I said last time, we have multiple characters in this series who are missing limbs. I mean, the introductory episode for Shanks, one of the four emperors and one of the strongest characters in this series, has him losing an arm. And that was years and years and years in the past. So it's not a death sentence for Kiku at all. I don't think she's necessarily going to die. It is a major injury, and it did freak me out. It's just, again, it was so shocking. I just didn't really have a moment to respond. It's just, I was just completely taken aback. But that's a good thing. Oda clearly knows what he's doing. He's writing a good story, and he knows that would affect people, because I'm sure by that point he knew when writing this that Kiku had been pretty popular. Like, Kiku's a really popular character. I see people talking about her all the time. She's really well beloved. Like, honestly, I think I see her talked about more than most of the other Akazaya 9. The only ones who might even be up there with her are the likes of Kinemon and Denjiro. I see them talked about quite a bit too. And even in this arc, she's one of the most talked about characters that I see typically on social media. Up there with the likes of Yamato. And, of course, you have to include Hiyori, who's pretty well talked about even still. Even though for the anime, she hasn't been around for quite a long time. But yeah. It was a well done moment. It just, because I do love Kiku's character so much, it was really upsetting, admittedly. And as for the opening, I have watched the new opening probably an unhealthy amount of times since last week. And I've gotten a lot more used to it. As I said last week, that was my first impressions on it, and seeing it again and again and all would probably make me, like, grow more accustomed to it and everything, and I definitely have. It's still not the best opening, but it's not as bad or anything as I, like, initially viewed it as. It's really not. It's not, again, it's not the best, but while the music doesn't entirely fit with the visuals, it's still enjoyable to watch. It's still entertaining. And it still gets me excited for the series. So just like with the last openings, we will continue to watch it each episode. Plus, it does give the little preview in, which I didn't even realize last week, like, when watching it. Just because it was so subtle about it. Like, first time watching it, I didn't even realize the part that was the preview for the episode was the preview. So, yeah. But I know now, and I know now exactly where to look for that and everything. And I'm excited to see how some of this stuff from the opening does come into play. Because while I've watched the opening a lot during this past week, I haven't like overly analyzed it or like been pausing it every now and again just to like try to figure out what everything is and everything means and how things are going to integrate in. I'm not that worried about it. I'm not that picky about it. If I notice something, I notice something. Pretty much how it goes. But either way, I'm very excited to see what we get into going forward with this, and hopefully this act of Wano continues to be as amazing as it has been. So we're just going to get this started, hope for the best, and see what this episode has in store for us. So when when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black, then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, there are two moments in this episode that really stood out to me. Like, there's a lot, there's plenty of good in this episode, but there's two specific moments that really stood out to me. And not quite in the order you might think. The one that stood out to me less so, but was still one of the big two standout moments, so number 2 spot, was the Yamato moment. You would think, based on the thumbnail and everything, that would be number 1 for me, but no. The other moment that I'll talk about in a moment actually stands out more, and for better reasons. But the Yamato moment stands out to me because of the specific way they handled it, with Yamato coming in not only just to rescue Momo, which of course we know he would do, but also he comes in, and when he attacks the member of the armored squad, or whatever they're called, he, like, the screen, like, goes into white and shows this minimalist line sketch style for the start of his attack there. And then it goes into the more, like, super high quality animation and everything. And it reminded me, there's a couple moments in the series where it does that, but it reminded me specifically of the moment when Luffy punched St. Charles in Shabandi Archipelago. And it's not quite the same thing for multiple reasons, but there is kind of a similarity there to me. In both cases, Luffy and Yamato are defending someone else. Luffy was defending Hachi, who had just been shot by Charles, and Yamato is defending Momonosuke, who has a kill order on his head and is being actively attacked at the moment by Sasaki and these armored goons. Both of them go into that sketch style in their attacks, though for Luffy's it's the climax of the punch hitting St. Charles, and for Yamato it's just the start of the attack. And both of them, by doing so, are sending a message. Luffy sending a message that he's willing to pick fights with anyone, even the likes of the Celestial Dragons, the literal rulers of the world. And Yamato is sending the message that he is fighting for the Kozuki clan, rather than for his father, Kaido. Both of these scenes, when compared and contrasted, send an overall message of what this series and its heroes are about and stand for. This series isn't just about finding the One Piece. Everywhere this crew goes, everywhere our heroes go, they protect others. Whether it be their honor, their lives, anything, they protect them. And they inspire others to do the same. And we see that it's not just them doing this, that it's other people that have been important to them. Ace has inspired others to do this. Whitebeard and Roger have inspired others to do this. Odin has inspired others to do this. And it continues to go down. This series has a highlight. Excuse me. Has a highlight of protecting and helping others. Like, you could ask a bunch of different people, and they'd all tell you that One Piece was about something different. One person might say it's about adventure and freedom. One person might say it's about the corruption of government. And another might say that it's about this, about being there, protecting, caring for people. Even people you don't know all that well. Because let's be honest. Luffy didn't know Hachi that well. I don't think he really met him much at all during Arlong Park. And he really had just recently met him during the Shabandi Archipelago arc. He didn't know Hachi that well, but it didn't matter to him. In his eyes, they were already friends. And so, when his friend was hurt, that's all that it took for him. He was willing to defend him and punch a world noble to do so. Yamato doesn't know Momonosuke at all. They've only just met. They don't know anything about each other, and Yamato has no idea how to truly interact with Momo even. But he knows he needs to protect him. He knows that he needs to and wants to serve him. And even despite not knowing him, all that matters is that he cares for him. And so he just steps forward, turning his back on his allies and declaring that he is fighting for the Kozuki clan instead. So there are definitely some heavy comparisons to be made there. And I really liked that. But the part that I liked more in this episode was the silence. Shinobu tells Momonosuke to run. And then silence hits. And as I said in the reaction, it was deafening. Silence can be used in media, whether a movie, a series, a video game, etc., to convey a lot. And even before Momonosuke started speaking there, displaying his uncertainty and unwillingness to just run away. Because he's the shogun. He's the rightful shogun, and he knows that it's not right to just run in this scenario. Before he even starts talking about that, though, The silence tells us everything we need to know about where his mind is when he heard that. When told to run, that silence tells us, no, I'm not okay with that. I'm not comfortable with that. Running is not the right move to make. And this is only the most recent of the big moments that Momo has had in this arc. That speech he gave at Udon, another phenomenal moment. His declaration while hanging up there by Queen and King and everything while he was up there, amazing. But this is another one of those big moments for Momo, where we see, honestly, how much he's changed since we first met him at Punk Hazard, and how important and wonderful of a character he is. We see the spirit of the rightful shogun of Wano. And the more that this series puts into Momo's character, the more that Oda develops and builds upon it, just continues to impress me beyond reason. Momo is fantastic. He's an amazing character who just continues to be better and better pretty much every time he gets a moment to shine. And he definitely feels like he's following in the footsteps of his father. Oda is crafting this to such a great degree that he is legitimately making this young kid, who was introduced as kind of bratty and even a little perverted, into one of the most inspirational characters in this series. This is a character who you truly see as a leader, who you truly believe is worthy of running Wano. Because Oda has made believable developments that build upon his character in important ways. And that's why that moment of silence hit me so hard. That's why it was so deafening for me. Because it's another culmination of everything that Oda has been working for with this character. And how important he is to this arc, and how important his growth is to this arc. His ascension into the true shogun of Wano is breathtaking. Like, honestly, you compare him to the leaders of other nations we've met throughout this series, the likes of Cobra, of Neptune, King Riku, and so on and so forth. I honestly think Momo towers above them. In terms of development and depth, in terms of character, in terms of just presence, Momo commands attention and respect. And he earns it. And I really, really love what Oda's done with him. I feel that by the time this arc is over, Momo will be the perfect leader for Wano. And I'm ecstatic to see how that goes. The only reason I didn't put that in the thumbnail is because I didn't really think I could convey that in the thumbnail. It's such a heavy, strong, important message that I just don't feel like it can be conveyed with a single shot. And I don't think there's really much of any shots in there that really expresses everything that moment meant. So I made the thumbnail based on my second favorite moment of the episode. But the episode also touched on a couple other things too. The Ice Oni stuff is continuing with one of Hyogoro's generals, I guess you would call them, being infected. Chopper has made a declaration that he's going to put a stop to this and save everyone. And also, this episode was named after Chopper, but that moment was so fucking tiny in this episode. Like, this episode actually should have been named after Momo or Yamato, honestly. But again, this is a thing that's happened in multiple episodes throughout the series, many episodes probably. It's not anything new that they would name an episode after something like that. But on the other side, I'm kind of glad because it's not spoilery. It doesn't spoil the best parts of this episode. And this episode also continued to show the aftermath of Kiku's arm being cut off. She's bandaged up by her brother and Kinemon, the latter of whom also cauterizes her wound with his sword. Which is really fucking, like, upsetting and frightening and just painful to watch. Because it's like, the idea of, like, cauterizing a wound like that, just thinking about it is painful. And so the fact that she didn't scream out or anything, the fact that she held it in, she was definitely affected. You could hear her, like, crying a bit about it, but she held strong and then basically got up and is like, okay, let's continue to fight. And it's like, God damn, I love you, Kiku. You're strong, you're beautiful, you're a badass. It's just like, not even losing an arm is gonna stop her. And it's like, fuck yeah. Just everything about that is pretty awesome. I would say that would be my third favorite moment of the episode. Just when she gets back up and it's like, okay, let's continue. And Kaido goes back to his human form, which is a curious decision. And yeah, so there's a bit of setup in this episode for other things, of course. We get to see Luffy and Jinbei and Sanji continuing on. We get to see that the Flying Squirrel Girl is watching everything. Things are being set up for sure. So I'm definitely interested to see where some of this goes as we continue. And there's other plot threads that we need to get back to too. Like Marco is still fighting Big Mom and Perospero. And Carrot and Wanda came out, and Carrot looked at the moon, so she should be going Sulong form. So we still got to see that. Maybe Wanda will too. That would be awesome. So it's like there's still plenty of stuff we gotta see here. And I'm definitely interested to see more of that as we continue along. But in the meantime, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of One Piece? Let me know, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.